All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. Okay, here's some of my violins. I have two more. I have a 3/4 violin sitting in there, but I don't know if I'm going to bring it out or not. But, oh wow, look at the red's really popping in that one. Nice color schemes here. Okay, so today's video is basically why violin pricing is a scam. Dun, 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 plot thickens. All right, before we get into that, let's start off with my Czechoslovakian-made 1713 Stradivari. So we'll have a nice little look at it so you just get an idea what it's all about. And yes, those are black walnut sitting there ripening at the end. I put them there just cause they were on the table. Have a look at the back. Pretty plain Jane back, but still nice. You know, nice little tobacco burst kind of look to it. Okay, so that's the 1713 Stradivari, the haunted violin. If you don't know the story about the 1713 Stradivari, well, there you go. Right here, back together in one solid, the two pieces back together again. The body and the neck is now back together again. Hopefully it'll stay that way. This is a 1920, 103-year-old Prokop violin. And this is a very unique violin. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll have a look at the nice scroll on this. The neck actually attached to the body for the fourth time. The beautiful maple on the back of this. I don't know if the camera could pick it up, but if you see it from different angles, it just like, it just pops. It's just really cool. Very unusual violin, and I'll talk about why it's so unusual maybe a little bit later in the video or series of videos. And then, of course, my beloved Lionhead violin. This thing is just awesome. Well, I'll have a look at it this way. Of course, as soon as I make the video, the sun comes out and whatever, nice Indian rosewood, I think it is. Not sure what that is. So it might be laurelwood. But anyway, very beautiful. And then, of course, very unique tuners on this thing. So we'll have a look at it. The purfling around the... Look at the sides. Lighting, I want to make sure the lighting is pretty good. But this thing is just absolutely gorgeous. You know, tiger stripe maple neck. Missing the tongue, but you can see the tuners. Those tuners, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's actually scribing in the inlays there. Leaf pattern. The detail in this, whoever made this, put a lot of emphasis on it. I do have a bit of a history. This is about 150-year-old to 200-year-old Lionhead violin. And then last, the loudest violin on the planet, the big fat Hornsteiner with its lovely red and yellow burst with a stamp from Florida. I don't know if you guys can see the stamp on there. It's kind of faded since I've wiped it down. I forgot to wipe the top of this, so it's a little bit dusty. Very, very loud violin. Very bright, very loud. About 1930s, 1940s. Okay, so here's all the violins. I'll start with the most expensive one, which is the obvious for probably most people. I paid $550 for this violin. Okay, I probably got about $950 in it if you add up the Larsen Virtuoso strings, the BT tailpiece, the nice chin rest. Probably about that into it. This violin, the Prokop 103-year-old Prokop violin, I've got about $150 into this. And I bought the violin for I think $100 even, with pretty much nothing on it. It was just the violin. This one I got pretty much in the condition you see it there. I did change the cheek rest and the tailpiece and the tuners. I got this for $75, right? And I've probably got under $100 into that one. And this one I bought for, I believe, $100. And I put it on the Whitner tuner tailpiece. I bought that. So I probably got about, I would say less than $150 into this one. Or maybe pretty close. Because I took the tailpiece off the electric violin and the tuners off the electric violin too. And I put them on this one. So that said, what are the violins worth? Well, here's the thing about violin pricing. Okay, when I was looking for my third violin, which was this one, the first violin I bought, and maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of so I keep an eye on the time, because time tends to fly by really quick while you're talking about these things. The first violin I bought was a 3/4 scale Cornelli violin. There's a piece of chip there. And that Cornelli violin, okay, was pretty cool for a person who just wanted to buy a violin-shaped object, meaning it didn't hold tuning well, it was made out of plywood, all that stuff. It really wasn't a good instrument at all. It wasn't a good instrument to learn on, and like that, but when you know, it depends how you approach these things. You buy a violin just to get into it. You might buy a violin-shaped object because it's cheap. And usually these things are unplayable. They don't hold tuning. They don't sound good. They don't resonate well, blah, blah, blah. They're almost a waste of money. So when we're buying violins, okay, the first thing you have to understand that the price is subjective, but there is a formula to kind of figure out what a violin's actually truly worth. Because if I were to sell these violins, considering the state I got them in versus the state they're in now, the price goes up when the thing can play versus when it can't play, right? And, you know, little upgrades here and there. So, is there a standard to go by? Well, the first thing that I learned when I tried about 28 different violins, ranging from price ranges from about $400 or maybe even $300, or no, $250, all the way up to about $4,800 or $5,800. Yes, this was back in 2014, 2015, somewhere around that time. And the first thing I realized was there was no uniformity in price once you got past a certain level. So, first off, is there actual formulas and levels? Well, there is, and there's violin-shaped objects, box store stuff, music box store stuff, eBay stuff. Okay, here's a violin for $150. Don't waste your money on it. Oh yeah, but it's cool. It's a 6-string. It's a 5-string. It's this color, that color. It's acoustic electric. It's probably not going to be very good. I'm not saying every one of them will be horrible, but you're almost guaranteed that they're gonna, you know, they're not really built as a proper violin. You know, you'd be lucky if there's a sound post in it. You know what I mean? So people buy those. They diddle around with them until they realize that these things really just don't work. They don't stay in tune. You know, they don't sound good. All that kind of stuff. They don't play well. Whatever. They're made out, like I say, made out of plywood or made out of whatever. So those are the violin-shaped objects, and those will probably be from 0 to the beginning of a standard violin. So let's say you're like, okay, look, I want to learn how to play violin. I want something, I don't want to break the bank, but I want something that I guaranteed is playable. You know what I mean? So that it's not just, okay, am I taking a crapshoot that this thing's going to work or not going to work? And what I mean by work or not work is like, will it stay in tune? Is it playable? Will the bridge just keep falling down on it? Which my Cornelli violins were like that. So my first Cornelli violin that I bought, and I'm not bashing on the Cornelli stuff, it just, it was what it was. And I just bought it on a whim. It was like $56 for a 3/4 scale violin, which I didn't even have the scale. It was the only one in the shop. So I'll take it. It's cheap, I'll take it. I took it home and I played it for a little while, maybe a couple of months, and then I brought it to a pawn shop. I got $60 for it, more than what I paid for it, and they turned around and tried to sell it for $200. Now I know it sold. I don't know what it sold for. Did it sell for $160, $200? I don't know. But I'm like, somebody got punked, right? So I went out and I bought, I think it was a 7/8 one because they didn't have the 4/4 there. But I learned, you know, okay, yeah, I couldn't play the 3/4 scale one. It was just, well, I couldn't play it well because it was just too small. I have a 3/4 scale one in there, and I could, you know, I can play it a bit, but you can't really, you know, it's just too small, right? So I had the 7/8 one, I think it was like $85. And I had it for probably about 10 years, to be honest with you. And played off and on. You know, I'm a guitar player, so I don't really take it crazy seriously, right? I don't take lessons or anything like that. I'm just, use the music theory that I know and try to adapt it to these violins as I'm playing them, right? And just learn where everything is. But I needed something that was going to stay in tune. And my other Cornelli violin, which I sold, I think, for $60. I had stripped it, painted it blue, it looked cool, everything like that, but the bridge would fall on it. You just couldn't keep it in tune. It didn't sound good. The sound post kept falling down. It was just a horrible experience. To the point where it's like, I didn't really care if it sounded the best. I just, it had to be playable. So I started saying, well, I'm going to go and buy, because I know when I have a good violin, I'm probably going to keep it for a good while. Like, I've had this thing very close to 10 years now. Where does the time go? Another 2 years, it'll be 10 years. I've had this for 8 years. And the thing is that I went into some fiddle factories and asked them, I said, is there a place you can start with a violin and guaranteed the thing's going to stay in tune, but it's not like $8,000, you know what I mean? Like, is there a place? And there is, and that's called, so we go from violin-shaped objects to the second category, which is student, right? Which can range, we'll say, on the budget side, we're talking Canadian dollars here, probably around $300 to say about $600 would be your student violin, not including tax, right? Just 300 to 600, 400 probably somewhere of the majority. And there's your like VL100s, VL200, bottom end of the VL200s or whatever. So these are your beginner violins.